Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Breckland Planning for today. Slightly briefer meeting than usual, but we've got business that has to be taken care of. Could I first of all go through what we class as our general housekeeping? I seem to be rather loud on this mic. Echoey? Echoey? Is that what it is? An empty room? I sound like I'm down a well. So first of all, fire exits. The two fire exits in this room are quite clearly marked. There is also one at the end of the corridor where the lavatories are, and also the entrance that you came in by. We haven't got a test on today, so if we hear the alarm goes off, we will treat it as genuine and vacate the building. If you're not sure where that is to go, then just follow this lot because they'll be running out fairly quickly. So if you follow their dust that they'll throw up. Also, could I just remind you to switch off all your mobile phones, recording devices, so that they don't go off and interrupt my meeting. We have a system here where if you do that, it's a £10 fine to the chairman's charity. That's not me, it's the chairman of the council, Councillor Mike Nairn. And I know one of his charities, Papyrus. I can't think if there was another one. Mind, yes, Mind was the other one, Mind and Papyrus. So £10 will be got out of you. We'll hold you upside down by your ankles and get £10 out of you. And then you'll have done some good from disturbing my meeting. The order of the meeting can vary, but what the general procedure is that when an item is called, we have a list of speakers who will come and sit on the right-hand side upon my instruction. The various officers will do their presentation and I will tell you when and how long you have to speak. Come on in, my darling, come on in. Come in and take a seat. We were waiting for you, but you're here now. Thank you. And then you'll have your time, which will be allocated to you. And when you're finished, I will ring the bell. It doesn't mean stop instantly. It means, please, can you sum up? And summing up doesn't mean 15 minutes. It means that sentence, if possible. So let me introduce my team for the day. On my left-hand side, I have Mike Horn, the solicitor. And on my right-hand side is Rebecca Collins, Head of Development Management. At the far end is Chris Hobson, Principal Planning Officer. We also have sitting at the back, Gemma Manthorpe, Principal Planning Officer. In front of me is Julie Britton, our Democratic Service Officer, and Becky Harris, who was sitting there, but she's disappeared, and she's my committee usher for today. We're going to start with item 1 on our agenda is the minutes, and could I ask the members to agree if they've read them and that I can sign them off? Are you in agreement? Agreed. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's what we're turning over. Item 2. Do I have any apologies, please, Julie?
Thank you, Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Bowes, Councillor Clark and Councillor Crane, and substitutes in attendance for today's meeting are Councillor Plummer and Councillor Brain.
Right, thanks chaps for coming in and standing in. Good to see you again, Councillor Brain. It's been a while. Okay, item 3 is declaration of interests. I will raise them as each item is brought forward. Item 4, chairman's announcements. First of all, to thank you all for the being so swift in putting your names forward for the panel dates that are set out. It was good to know that we're going to get the members to achieve that full panels when they come around. And could I also thank my planning team, especially Rebecca and Julie here, who have gone to a lot of work because I was not meant to be here because last week I tested positive for COVID, but I think I was well into it. I'm well out of it now. From Saturday, well, probably Friday onwards, I've tested negative, so I'm okay. So if anybody wants to have their face licked, you can give me a shout. I can do it. It's not a problem. And also I'd like to thank Peter, Councillor Wilson, who's been put on standby. We defrosted him and unfortunately didn't need him, so we're going to put him back in the freezer. and he'll be needed another time. So thank you all for being put on standby. Okay, item 5, request to defer applications. Do we have any at all? Thank you, Rebecca.
Yes, please, Chairman. We're requesting to defer item 5A at Griston, application reference 3PL 2022-0368/F. That item is requested to be deferred on the grounds that we had some late letters of representation. We need some further time to consider those comments that were received.
Thank you. Item 6, urgent business. We are bringing an item with regards to nutrient neutrality, our calculator launch and update. Rebecca, please to give us that.
Yes, so following the work that's been undertaken by Royal Haskoning on behalf of all the Norfolk districts, it was agreed last week that the Norfolk calculator developed by Royal Haskonian will be made available for use from the 30th of September, so last Friday. And also the mapping that's associated with that calculator and the catchment areas will also be available for use. On that basis, we will be providing links to both the calculator and the mapping and some wording for the website. We're working on that at the moment, so we hope to have that all ready and on the website by the end of the week. It's important for members to note that Brecon Council will be offering both the Natural England calculator and the Norfolk calculator for developers for use, and it will be up to them to decide which of the calculators they decide to use. And just for your information, members, we are currently awaiting formal written response from Natural England with regards to the Norfolk calculator, but to date they have been supportive of the approach that we've taken and the methodology behind it and the principles that have been undertaken. So we hope to have that written agreement to the Norfolk calculator shortly. The next steps, members, just for your information, is that Royal Haskoning will be looking at appropriate mitigation sites, and we will keep you as updated as we can. Thank you.
Councillor Attawell.
Thanks for that, Peggy. Can you just clarify why we're offering 2 calculators? I'm presuming one of them would be more developer friendly than the other. Is there a reason why there are an offer of 2? Wouldn't we just be better offering 1 and saying this is the same for everybody? I wonder if you can explain that a bit more, please.
We think as officers that it's important that the developers decide which of the calculators they choose to use in the development of that site, because ultimately they will have to defend their own decision and use of that calculator. As it stands currently to date, we don't have written sign off from Natural England for the Norfolk calculator. Like I say, we've been in significant, or Royal Haskonian and the Norfolk authorities have been in discussion to them, and in principle they're signing up to the calculator, but we don't have written sign off for that. And also, it's very likely that the Natural England calculator will require more mitigation, and therefore we would be supportive of that if the developers choose to provide additional mitigation over and above that will be set out in the Norfolk calculator. So it will be the developers' options to pick what calculator, and it will be up to them to justify which calculator they use. And we'll obviously consult Natural England on either calculator and HRA appropriate assessment.
Okay, thank you, members. Item 7, we've got local plan update. This is a standing item, but unfortunately Simon Wood's not here, so I'm going to ask Rebecca to just read out an update, and this is for your information only, so I'm not taking questions on this item. Thank you.
So Simon says, following the decision of Cabinet on the 26th of September, a fresh round of consultation will take place in relation to the single policy update. That began on the 30th of September and will conclude on the 11th of November. It will then return to Cabinet for submission to the Planning Inspectorate before the end of November. The call for sites responses have been uploaded and are available to view on the Commonplace website, the Council's local plan platform. Members will already receive details of that. Any questions, please let me know and I will take them away.
There we go. Any questions, and Rebecca will take them away.
I read it on the screen.
Yeah. Well,
I asked questions at the last meeting and I didn't receive a response from Mr. Wood.
that's because that's you.
Yeah, well, that might be the case, but if I'm not allowed to ask a question about the local
Well, ask-
at this meeting, what
Ask-
forum do I have?
Unfortunately, I didn't want my officer to be put in a position where she couldn't answer that question. But if you would like to, after this meeting, give your question to Rebecca or speak directly with Simon Wood, that's fine. I do apologise, but unfortunately Simon can't be here today, so it's a little bit unbalanced. Are you happy with that answer? I didn't think so, but that's all you're going to get. Okay, thank you very much. Item 8 is the Public Footpath Diversion Order 2022, footpath number 45 at Swaffham. We've got Chris Hobson to deliver that presentation, and I also have to speak, I've got Beth Boucher, who's the applicant. If you'd like to come sit on the right-hand side, please, along with Marcia Grice, who's the Rights of Way Executive for Burkett's LLP. Thank you, ladies. Okay, over to you then, please, Chris.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. So, yeah, item 8, we're dealing with a footpath diversion order, so footpath number 45 in Swaffham. Usually you would see these with an application, whether it's a full consent or reserve matters. We're dealing with this today in addition to the reserve matters that was granted for the site. So just an introduction, really. So the application has been submitted by Barrett David Wilson Homes. It's in relation to the allocated site. So site here, allocating the local plan for residential development, Norwich Road here. So the application is seeking resolution from the committee to grant or propose an order for the diversion of the footpath. So we've got the site there in context. So this is the actual site itself of the residential development, Edge Red, and you can make out the footpath there running south from Norwich Road to North Pickenham Road down here. So a bit of an idea of the pre-existing footpath. You'll see it runs through the field there. We've got Norwich Road here and North Pickenham Road here, residential properties here. So development has commenced on site across the frontage here. And that's just the existing route there of the footpath. So footpath 45, and you'll see footpath 442 to the north there. And there's other routes here to the south. So in essence, we have the consented layout here. So you'll see from the green line, so that's the existing route. And what's being proposed is from this point here, the blue line, so it loops kind of eastwards around this residential frontage here, and this is an area of open space, and then the diversion finishes at this point and continues on the existing route at the southern end. Essentially, consent has been granted for outline and reserve matters for the scheme. So this is the approved scheme here in front of you. So you can see there from the layout, it's approved to outline. The layout requires the diversion into the open space here. In more detail here, we've got the existing route here up to the footpath, a 2 metre wide surface footpath. You'll see runs through the open space past the dwellings. Yeah, and continues along here. So it's proposed to have play equipment and a gym trail within the open space. It obviously continues across the frontage of the dwellings southwards. And that's just a formal diversion route there, this area here. So members, in terms of the report, before you'll see in sections 4 and 5, there's a series of consultations that were undertaken. You'll see a list of variety of organisations were involved. There's no objections raised from those. You'll see that the Open Space Society did raise an objection, but following discussions between the applicant and themselves, the objection was removed. And also in the report, you see the key test really in this matter is to weigh the advantages of the diversion against the disadvantages, anything adverse in terms of how it would impact on members of the public and those houses or properties in close proximity to the to the site and highway. I mean, as I touched on, you'll see in terms of the route, it's only slightly longer, so it loops this way. In terms of the actual route, it's now, rather than an open field, you've got dwellings fronting onto it. You've got its incorporation into the open space. So in summary, it's considered that is an improvement to the right of way. Yeah, just to wrap this up, the diversion of the footpath is clearly necessary to allow the consented development to take place. And as mentioned in summary, also there are no disadvantages that outweigh the gains from the diversion. Accordingly, it's recommended that resolution is made to divert the part of footpath 45 in accordance with the allowances in section 257 of the Town and Country Planning Act. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Beth Boucher, you've got 3 minutes if you're wishing to speak. Okay, if you make sure you've got one of the black Toblerones in front of you. Yeah, and there's a little button to press. It comes red this side. Press. You're on. You're away. 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Bethany Boucher. I'm representing the applicant BDW Cambridgeshire today. The officer's report and presentation to committee has comprehensively set out the background to the footpath diversion application and why an order is required to enable the delivery of 155 dwellings at Norwich Road, Swaffham. And on behalf of the applicant, I endorse the contents of that report. Notwithstanding the need for the diversion, as has been explained, it's clear that the diversion would additionally bring key benefits for the public and the future occupiers of the development and the residential dwellings. Firstly, the diverted footpath route runs along the edge of the open space to be provided. It will benefit from the openness and outlook onto this area of greenery. And in addition, it will allow access to the open space and the uptake of outdoor activities there. Secondly, the current line of the footpath doesn't have a defined width, and the proposed diversion will have a legal width of 5 metres, and this will protect against any future encroachment onto the footpath, which might interfere with public enjoyment. The proposed diverted footpath will also be surfaced for a width of 2 metres, and this will facilitate use by a greater number of users, for instance, those in wheelchairs or with pushchairs. And for all these reasons, the applicant is firmly of the opinion that the diversion is necessary and also merited, and would ask that members endorse the officer's recommendation to resolve to approve the application.
Thank you. Marcia Grice, please, of Burkett's. 3 minutes again, please.
I was instructed by Breckland to process the application for the diversion, and to be honest, the presentations that have been provided have, I think, covered all the points, but I'm very happy to take any questions if you'd like anything clarified.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor, let's have a look who was first. Kybird. I think I'll take Councillor Kybird and then Councillor Kittle-Morris. Thank you.
Yes, can you confirm what the arrangements for future maintenance are, please?
Once a diversion has taken place for a footpath, the Norfolk County Council are responsible for the maintenance, unless any arrangements have been made otherwise between the developer and Norfolk County Council.
Okay. No, you're not okay.
Well, the Norfolk County Council Public Rights of Way response is, as it now to have a tarmac surface to be primarily used for on-site access, we would require its maintenance in perpetuity to be undertaken by the site owner and included in the grounds maintenance contract for the new development.
Chris?
Yeah, in this instance, you'll see from the plan, I can bring it up if you want, but the actual route actually runs in the open space. So there is a legal agreement attached to the consent which deals with all the open space. So at the point of where it runs into the open space, there'll be a management company that would deal with the maintenance of the open space, and that would incorporate maintenance of the footpath. So it's a tarmac 2 metre wide footpath from memory. There is contributions to deal with improvements to those routes off-site. You'll note that the diversion and open space doesn't incorporate all that route. So there's a contribution within the legal agreement to provide to address improvements off-site as well.
Okay, item covered. Councillor Kittle-Morris.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was going to ask exactly the same question. I don't think management company maintenance is going to be satisfactory going forward, but that's historical in the future, I think. Historical future. The other thing that's come out of this is that, of course, at the Norwich Road end of this footpath, there was supposed to be a dual access for cycles as well. And one of the representations made in the planning application that this should be separated to avoid conflict. I think the Ramblers put a comment in saying they should separate the cycle route from the pedestrian route. Has that been done?
I'll just bring the plan up, that might help explain that. So yeah, yeah, it's entirely correct. The Ramblers highlighted the issue of ensuring that you had so you didn't want a conflict between cyclists and pedestrians. So actually there is 2 routes at that end. So we'll just next one. So this shows it in more detail. So the actual line of the footpath runs through this gap here. So there is a hedgerow, and then there's a gap, and then there's the edge of the dwelling here and their boundary. So the actual footpath runs here. What they're also proposing is this link here, which is now in place on site, which provides the cycle link from the site. And actually the right of way within the site starts here and obviously continues there. So this section is maintained as part of the open space. And then beyond here is unaffected part of the right of way. And yeah, so that bit there is actually this section here from Norwich Road to this point here where it's diverted. So you'll essentially have a separate route for cyclists here and the existing right of way retain there.
Okay, Councillor. Okay, Councillor Wilkinson, please.
It's on the report.
There we go. Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I was just wondering if there's going to be a path, a fence between the path and the properties, or is that going to be gardens up to the pathway? And it will be left open to the open area, won't it? It won't be fenced or anything. It's going to be open up to the open area, which is good. I just wondered about security with the properties. I don't know if police have been consulted on that. They normally ask about footpaths running at the rear of properties. I just wondered. It looks like there might be gardens and something in a roadway. I'm not sure, but
yeah, no, it's fine. So the section which is to be diverted is in. You have the dwellings facing onto it, so it's in a wider open space. They've got good surveillance from those. The sections, easy to show it again, to the north, you've got the sides of the dwellings on Captain's Close. So there's the sides there already, that's as existing. And then you've got the dwellings beyond the hedge on the eastern side on the site also. Yes, you'll see that. So from that point of view, it's largely as existing, but you'll have surveillance from those dwellings on the frontage as well. And then to the southern edge, you've got the properties at Hillside, I think it is. In terms of show that. Yeah, so Yes, so this section here beyond the site, so you'll have frontage of the dwellings all the way along here, along its diverted section. And this section here between Wood Farm and the properties, yes, at Hillside is the rear, but that's as existing.
Okay. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, no further questions. So with regards to footpath number 45 at Swaffham, your officer's recommendation is that a resolution is made to divert the footpath FP45 are part of as requirements of section 257 of the Town and Country Planning Act. Could I have show of hands for approval to that, please? And that looks unanimous. That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies, for your time. So item 9 on our agenda is deferred items for you to note, none being raised today. And our schedule item 10. So we're going to go 10B, which is Litcham Land off Weasenham Road, reference 3PL 2022-0341F. And we've got Gemma coming into the hot seat for the presentation. And this is regards to surface water drainage provision and off-site highways works. So just bear with us for a moment while we get plugged in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Apologies for the time taken to get me set up IT wise. As said, this is a full application for surface water drainage provision and off-site highways works. So the application is in 2 parts technically. We'll run through them both separately, but they're linking to the same site. This is the site within the wider context. As members will see, this is open land in between 2 existing residential linear developments. And on the red line location plan, you'll see both red lines. It's not the easiest to see, I'm afraid, on the big screens, but down here you can see it's clear on the next slide. This is the provision, if you can see my cursor, of the off-site highways improvement works, and the red line plan you can see in the main section. That's for the drainage application or the drainage part of the application. And you can see the blue line, which shows the land within the applicant's ownership. It's noted within your officer's report, there is currently 2 reserved matters applications in presently. There is also approval for residential development under 2 outline consents, which is why this application has come about, because the red line actually doesn't, the red line of those 2 applications doesn't meet. So this application covers the land in the middle, which is facilitating the drainage. And I'll show you this when you see the drainage diagrams. This is a footway section of the off-site highways improvement works. These have come about through discussions with Norfolk County Council according to the information submitted by the applicant. The previous reserved matters application did provide for off-site highways improvement works, and this was going through a discharge conditions application, which is also currently in, but is now going to link through to this application to allow for the retention of the trees on site. And there we are. I don't know if members can see, it's along here. There are some existing mature trees on site. This application for the reorganisation of the public footpath or the footpath. So it's a proposed additional part of the footpath, which is required through the outline application for the residential portion of the development. It's been realigned to retain the existing mature trees. There is 1 category B tree, which will still need to be removed to allow for this section of footpath. However, the majority, which I think is number 4 trees, will be retained because the footpath is being moved back slightly. The land which is going to be subject to the footpath is owned by Breckland. This is noted by Norfolk County Council Highways, and members will note the application is before you because the applicant is Breckland Bridge. So overall, there is a betterment with the retention of trees. This is more in line with policy and VO6, which does allow for the removal of category B trees if the overall benefits to the development outweigh the loss of the tree. The submitted arboricultural information and support of the application requires the addition of the planting of a tree. This has been conditioned, you'll see at the end of the report, for landscaping. and this has been agreed by the Tree and Landscape Officer. The Tree and Landscape Officer has no objections to the application with regards to the loss of the tree and the development as proposed, subject to a condition. So that's the footpath section of the application. Next, if we look at the drainage plan, members will see the reserved matters. This is rough, the reserved matters hasn't been approved yet. The reserved matters application allows for these two portions of development on either side of this open space. The red line was tight to these two portions of development. So the land in the middle, which is designated as open space, wasn't included. It turns out that the drainage, which was approved under the outline application, actually requires the central portion of the land. As such, this couldn't be done through a discharge of conditions application because it wasn't covered by the red line section. So the drainage application is in to facilitate these two residential developments as approved under the outline permission, currently going through the reserved matters process, but is outside their red lines and forms the section in the central point. And I think you can see it here. Here's the geogrates here and here, outside of the red line. So although the application before you is standalone drainage, it is calculated on the hard standing for the residential development. I think it's 0.37 hectares of hard standing to facilitate these residential developments, and it will provide a betterment. The report before you outlines that it's outside of the development limits. The application respects the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside, given that the land will actually be reinstated and can still be used as open space land after the development is commenced because it's underground drainage. The report details compliance with the National Planning Policy Framework in that it is a betterment to the site, and there's nowhere else reasonably that drainage for the residential development, which has previously been approved, can be located because it needs to be located to drain the development as approved. Further information on nutrient neutrality has been requested through the reserved matters applications. It's noted within the request for the delegation, this matter is delegated to officers to resolve. This is a cover basis delegation. Technically, this application does not actually cause any additional overnight accommodation. However, it is a drainage application to facilitate overnight accommodation. So this is a belt and braces request, and the drainage information should have the nutrient neutrality details. That's the drainage section. If we just travel through, the site photos will demonstrate that the land is currently open land, as you can see. And back to the location plan, showing your two red lines. And the application is found to be in accordance with local and national planning policy and is recommended for approval, subject to conditions, delegated authority with regard to nutrient neutrality, and delegated authority to see if any of the conditions need tweaking to link them to the outstanding reserved matters applications to discharge of conditions applications, which are currently waiting for assessment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from members at all on this item? Councillor Kittle-Morris.
Just to say, Chairman, that as ward member, I'm perfectly happy with this application to be approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, we're going to take the vote on this one, which is at Litcham 3PL 2022-0341F with regards to the drainage for surface water provision and off-site highways works. Your officer's recommendation on this one is one of approval. Could I show of hands, please? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, our next item, item 11, is applications determined by the Executive Director of Place, and these are for notification to yourselves, page 70 to 82. And item 12, appeals summary, again for your information. Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I know it's been a short and brief one, but it was things that we needed